It's Saturday. I'm on the bank. Let's get the rods in and have a cup of coffee, eh? Roll that intro. Woohoo! We are here. 4 rods in. I'm on the River Learn. This is the first time I've had to fish it this winter because the stands are now above the water line, which is good. Because where I'm sitting right now, about a fortnight ago, was about 3 feet deep. So still tons of water coming through the river. I'm having to use 6-ounce leads to hold the bottom. Starting from right to left, I have a pollen that's just cast up underneath the bridge or beside one of the towers that hold the bridge up, where there's a little bit of a slack water. Moving down from that, I have a half a mackerel. Then I have an eeltail, and then I have a smelt. So it's a wide variety of dead baits, and they're fished at varying distances. Some of them are just fished chucked in the margins because where we're fishing here, it drops down really deep really quick. So we don't have to cast. You could cast to the far side of the river. It wouldn't be a problem. But the problem wouldn't be the casting there, getting the baits there. The problem would be the boat traffic. Because the boats just will, because they see the bridge up here to my right, they will just put the foot down and steam up to get underneath the bridge. Now, I'm not sure if you guys understand, when there's a lot of water coming through a bridge, it makes the water that hits the columns that hold the bridge, it makes that bit of the water go a lot faster because it's pushing more water through a smaller space. So boats need to put the foot down and give it the beans to get it in through the shipping gap. So if I had a rod that was strung from this side of the bank to the far margin, well, then it would be taken out by some prick in a boat. You've seen me fish here a load of times before. Usually it's feeder fishing for hybrids and roach and bream and stuff like that there. And some pike sessions. I have done some pike sessions here. It's not been overly productive for me as a pike fishing session, as I can remember. I can't remember anything decent coming out. I've had decent fish from here, but I can't remember catching anything in the vlog decent. I can remember a few jacks. I can actually remember catching pike here on the fucking swim feeder more than I can fishing for pike. So let's hope that it is a bit more successful today. I'm not going to be unsupervised for long. Steve, Mr. S, he will be coming down shortly. And he'll hopefully be bringing me a tube of super glue because I've broke a camera tripod. Don't ask. It's been one of those mornings. I got here at first. Well, actually, this is the second location I came to. I went to Balnalek, and there was a couple of guys that looked like they'd been there a while. So I swung the car around and came back. I didn't stop and talk. I just didn't want to. I mean, there was obviously life. There was like lights on. Thought there was 2 guys walking around, so I thought, yeah, I'm just gonna leave them alone and give a quick friendly wave and left. But I'm gonna have a cup of coffee. In fact, no, I'm not gonna have a cup of coffee. I'm gonna have a Lucozade, something different, and then probably have a cup of coffee. It's literally gone daybreak, and I cannot believe the traffic. You know, the sun's eventually going to come up from that side, but the sun's not right up yet. I can see it just about over the horizon. But I think Steve, when he comes down, he's gonna chuck some feeders about and fish for roach and stuff. When he does that, I'll pull the rods from that side and put them over the fence into that side. Lots of tow coming down the river. Thankfully, because it's been like battering through this stretch of the river, a lot of the weeds been took out, which is great. But unfortunately, because this forms like a little bit of a back eddy, there's a lot of rubbish and shit that's been washed in here. So before I go, I'm going to have to take a bin bag and clean it up. I can see like Red Bull cans, and there's even a pair of socks around beside my van. I was like, somebody's lost a pair of socks. Okay. I've got cormorants working the far margin on the other side of the bridge, and right here in front of me I can see fish nipping at the surface, so there is shoalfish here, so hopefully there's pike, because that's what we want. It's just a day session today, it's not an overnighter. Mrs. S is working. I'm debating whether or not to do a day session today and a day session tomorrow. That would depend on sorting out someone to look after the monster. Jesus, how much fucking road traffic's coming through here? Anyway, let's get something to drink, and then we will talk to you in a minute, I guess. Right. This is a question I get asked a fair bit. Go through my unhooking gear. Obviously, you've seen me with this. This is a cradle. Carp guys invented this to look after their catch. It's a good job. I don't regret buying it. Would recommend. The only issue is it's a bit bulky and it's a bit of a bollocks to carry if you haven't to walk anywhere. But at the end of the day, an unhooking mat that rolls up will do just the same job as this. This just provides a bit more protection for the pike. But as long as you have a unhooking mat of some description, doesn't have to be expensive, unhooking mats are essential. Okay. I got pulled out, the current pulled me out there. Got pulled out. Anyway, back to the unhooking mat thing, right? Unhooking tools. I've got lots of these. These are just pliers, long nose pliers. These ones were made by E.T. back in the day, and they have the yellow handle. Now, these are great. I've got a set of these in my lure bag as well. At the end of the day, they're just long nose pliers. I have a few more sets of pliers. These are just from various. This is a Daiwa one. This is a Fox one. You know, they're just pliers. Pliers do the same job as everything else. Something that you can unhook the fish with. Pliers are good. Cutters. These are a pair of Nipex cutters. If I have to cut hooks, then these things will go through them like a knife through butter. I have another pair of cutters here. Again, these were old. I've had these for years. These are made by E.T. back in the day. I believe Fox make a pair of these, and I believe Prowler made a pair of these. They're all made in the same factory in Bongo land. They're all right for small wire. If they were going to have to cut something thicker, like lure hooks, I would probably go to the Nipex, because the Nipex is better. This is a fancy, all singing, all dancing pair of pliers that does a bit of a disco dance. These weren't mine. I never bought these. These belong to Mr. H, so I carry them with me. It's a bit of luck. I don't actually use them to unhook anything, because I don't think they get enough purchase on the hook. I mean, I'm squeezing quite hard, and it's not really it's not really, you know, you don't feel like you've got enough purchase, like you don't feel you've not got enough grip, because they can kind of go in and squeeze a bit. And then these are just your bog standard normal little forceps. I don't use these for like unhooking fish. What I would do with these, if I'm making a fish popped up, I'll use these, push these into the fish's mouth, wiggle them around a bit, put the pop up in, and that's what I use these for. That's just a little bit of wire. That little bit of wire is incredibly helpful if I'm having to well, if I'm having to thread like a pop-up link through, then I will push this through the bait. You know, nice and easy, just get it pushed through the frozen bait. Now you can use your bait needle. This is quite strong, whereas the bait needle is kind of flimsy. So it's just a little bit of wire. It's actually the same leader material I would make solid leader traces out of. But it's strong enough that it can be pushed through the dead bait, making a wee hole. And you can get it like length down through the dead bait, so you can kind of go through a longer dead bait. You try squeezing a baiting needle through a frozen dead bait, and it's a bit impossible. Whereas that little bit of wire on the end of a bit of pliers should sail through it. They're all contained in a hook, in a tool roll. Now this tool roll I got from Eddie Turner's Tackle. I'm a great fan of Eddie Turner's Tackle. He's as an angler, the man's a fucking legend. The man has caught some huge pike. So he has a wee shop, and I'll always have the link in the. I'll put the link in the description below just so you guys can go and get it. But go and give him some love. If you're ever looking like owner trebles, AFW wire and crimps, oils that are phenomenal. They're some of the best oils on the market. Eddie makes them. So there's my rundown of my unhooking tools and my unhooking station for today. Shite! Shite! I had a pike that looked quite decent on the smelt. It looked an upper double, possibly a low 20. And just as I was about to put the hooks in, I'd done one last and the hook pinged. Fuck! At least the fish are here. I could see the hooks. The last hook was just in the scissors. And they've got some slack water here to my left. So I was thinking, get it in the slack water, it's out of the flow, everything's cool. Fought like a demon, fought like it was a stabbed rat. As soon as it came to the surface, I could see where the hook was. Let a little bit of, didn't fucking try and bully it. No need to, you're in open water, no snags. And as soon as that net touched the water, she just went like that with her head. And pulled the hook. Fuck me, what a waste. What a fucking... That could have been my first 20 of the year. In fact, the more I think about it, yeah, that probably was a 20-pound fish. I've whacked out a pollen, popped up, well, pollens are popped up anyway, but off the bottom, you know, just to kind of, the 5-ounce leads aren't holding the bottom, so I've had to step up to 6-ounce leads, and the 6-ounce leads are only holding the bottom close in. So if I go into the middle of the river, the 6-ounce leads are just getting pushed down. So I've got some 8-ounce leads in the van. I really don't want to have to start chucking 8-ounce leads to anchor a bait. I've got my rod tips fished so that the rod tips are up in the air, so that there is as little line in the river to the lead, to the bait as possible. And when the river's moving, the more line you have in the river, the more pressure you're putting on the drop arms, which means the tighter you have to have them clipped up. Although the Pete Foster drop arms are fucking spectacular things for the river fishing. They are so easily tuned with the little black screw thing. You know, you can have them set rock solid tight for fishing on the river, and you can just, I would start off fishing up, especially in the river. I put the baits in, have the drop arm as tight as it can go, so you really feel the clip as the line goes in past the two ball bearings. And then it's a case of slacking it off just a half a turn until it's popping out. And once you get to the point where the flow of the river's pulling it out, wind it back in itself another half turn. So you've got to the point where it's easily to clip out, taking into account the current of the river. And you just tighten it up a little bit so that something has to give it that little bit more pressure to pull it out of the clip. Although that bite there was a fucking monster. The rod tip just wrenched round, and it was like, okay, that fish just wanted that bit. Fuck. Losing fish. I fucking hate losing fish. Yeah, I think that's a fish. Fuck me, drag. Fish on. Right, now I have to get... Not as big as the one I've just lost, but it's a fish all the same. Right, let's get this one unhooked, shall we? Right. Not even hooked in the mouth. Come on. Calm down. Right, that's in the net, not in the... Just a little jack. Something's had its tail off. Let's get it put back. Come on. Calm down. You're getting put back, I'm not gonna fucking knock you. Calm down, fish. Right, where's the easiest place to pop him back? So, probably over here by the Leadz. And there he goes. So here we are. I've had one fish and lost one fish. The fish that we've had managed to catch me. It's always the jacks. It's always the jacks. So, at least it's not a blank. The responsible adult for the day, Steve, has turned up. He's going to fish for some roach and perch with a stick float. Just kind of chill out for a few hours. I'm going to be fishing till about 5-ish, then take a slow drive home. Mrs. S is working, so I have to be home to look after the baby. So no overnighter this session, just a day session. I've been enjoying the news this week, I really have. One of the aides to the Queen, a lady that's in her, I think she's in her mid-80s, asked a lady who was dressed head to toe in African clothing where she's from, and this lady took great offence to being asked where she's from. It's one of those occasions where if I had a pound for every time somebody asked me where I was from, I wouldn't have to work anymore. Anywhere I've travelled in the world, be it America or Iraq or Afghanistan or even mainland like Germany and France and places, I've always been asked, where are you from? And it's never been something that I thought would have been a racist thing to ask somebody where did they come from. But the media that we have in the UK, God bless them, they just love a chance to get a dig in at the royal family. So they've hyped this up, and we've had all sorts of race grifters on the TV telling us that the royal family is institutionally racist and negative. I think the lady was set up. I think the royal aide was set up. Something stinks about the whole story, and I fail to be well, I'm listening to the woman that the lady that took offence about being asked what part of Africa was she from. She has a charity that's, well, it's a little bit strange. The charity only really deals with one ethnic minority, one race, one sex. Is that not breaking inclusive law or inclusivity laws or some shit like that, or diversity laws? I mean, if there was a charity set up that only dealt with like white men, would that not get shut down for being like racist or some shit? But it seems to be okay for a woman to have a charity that's divisive. Apparently the same woman has turned around to other females who haven't been quite black enough and told them, no, you're not getting any help from my charity. So I think this whole thing's been a setup. And listening to the media the BBC, the Sky, the Channel 4. It's just kind of made my my skin crawl listening to these wretched fuckers. I mean, the royal family, they've stepped over and above to kind of welcome people in the world. You know, people make a great big deal about the royal family being, you know, something negative. You know, the president of Kenya, that Kenya used to be in the British Empire. When the main man in Kenya and some of the African states, when the Queen died, they sent envoys for the state funeral. You know, such is the feeling of the former colonies, that people travelled halfway across the world to pay their respects to a woman who served their whole life for this country. So I kind of roll my eyes when I hear, you know, some pious race grifter fucking give it the whole, well, the royal family isn't compatible with the modern day, you know, because he fucking said so. The news, eh? I'm actually surprised the BBC never turned around and says this old lady was a racist because of Brexit or something like that, because the BBC doesn't like Brexit and everything seems to be the fault of Brexit. So I'm waiting for that one. You know, it's the old hilarious dog bites postman, is Brexit to blame? Gotta love the media. I don't listen to them, and I would advise anybody that's watching this channel how to make life a little bit easier. Don't listen to the news. They're selling you an agenda and it's all bullshit. We have a heron. When I first arrived this morning, there was a lot of cormorants above the bridge working, which meant that there was silverfish above the bridge. There's fish rising out here. I think they might be small, either trout or perch, because they're splashing quite a lot at the surface. So there's still a lot of shoalfish. Oh, we might be away. Okay. Just a short video. Wasn't very long. I didn't stay on the bank very long after the last clip you watched. Didn't catch anything more than the little jack. There was no cooking with scopes because I was kind of more annoyed with myself than anything for losing that fish. You know, shit happens, we all lose fish. And then I kind of overanalyze it. I'm sure everyone that loses a fish will go, shit, could I have done something better? Could I have done something different? Fuck knows. I literally, as soon as the net hit the water, you know, the pike just kind of did that with its head and the hook pinked out. So, thinking about it, it was easily a fish that was an upper double, possibly a low 20. So it was a nice fish. It would have been a nice fish. It would have been even nicer if I had the fish, you know, held up like this here. But, you know, shit happens. I didn't actually stay long, as I've said. I kind of packed up and drove home. No cooking with scobes because it was one of those days where it was just, you know, it was a bit crap, really. I mean, I drank plenty of coffee and the rods kept getting wiped out by floating, you know, weeds and grass and stuff. Although, as I'm editing this footage now, the thermometer in my back garden says it's -5, so, not -5, -3.5. 3.5. So I'm hoping that a couple of days of negative temperatures will kill the last of the weed and get through the system, you know, relatively quicker. Need to stock up on heavier leads. I kind of lost a lot of leads fishing there, purely because you're fishing. If you fish there in the summertime, you can cast your feeder out and you can drag it through the bottom and it comes across nice and soft, which is silt. Anyone that's you cast a lead out and if it feels jagged and bumpy, then it means you're coming across gravel or rock or something. But normally that river, there is some patches of rock, but for the most part, it's mostly silt. After the floods, the silt gets pushed down and you're back down to bare rock again. So when you were bringing the rods, the lead back, you could feel it kind of ding, 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 ding across the bottom. And that's just, that's what happens. Floods come, moves the silt. The River Erne, when it's moving, is changing. It's always changing. What you think might be one depth one day is not the next. It's the nature of a river. Any major river, any big river, will have, things that move around it. I mean, even in locks and in the ocean, there's things like sandbars that can move back and forth. So it's one of those things. After a series of floods, I mean, we had heavy floods, and the rivers were really pushing through. So any crap that's like sat in the bottom of that river, that's just going to get scoured and pushed through the system. Silt has to end up somewhere, so eventually the silt will move into, say, like if there's deeper holes. So one year that hole might be 25 foot deep. The next year it might only be 22 foot deep because over the year there might have been a load of crap pushed into it and over time it's settled down in it. So the rivers are always in a state of flux. They're always changing. But the good thing about having negative below zero temperatures is that I'm going to talk about rivers. Purely on the rivers, if the temperatures are negatives, the fish in the rivers will stay active more because the water is moving, it's flowing. Therefore, it's not as cold as it would be as if it was a loch, big static body of water. So the pike will be following the shoalfish. Once it's cold, the shoalfish will find bodies of the river that are either a big deep hole or a body of the river where a smaller river cuts into it. Because one river might be coming in at a slightly higher temperature, that making the water a bit more attractive for the fish. So if you have a big main river and it's flowing really, really cold, and there's like a side stream or a small river flowing into it, that's worth a place to that's worth a place to try because the different temperatures and waters make the fish more susceptible to being there, and the pike will be there. The river, I think that there's the pike, especially on the Erne, I don't think they're territorial. I think they move up and down the river up after the shoalfish. They'll be moving up and down after the bream and the roach. Sure, there will be places that will have some fish that linger there the whole year round because of things like a marina, a boat marina. A boat marina provides structure and somewhere that the fish like. So you will find there'll be like a resident shoal of fish that hangs around a boat marina or fishing jetties. Fishing jetties are another one. If you're parked up somewhere where there's like like boat houses, like canal boats, the fish will hide underneath those. Fish like structure. So marinas are always good in the winter because they provide the structure. But apart from that, the majority of that river, there isn't an awful lot of structure there. The river, when it's moving, good luck holding the bottom. Fishing on the Saturday, I was fishing at the point where it was slack water. Because the river come through the bridge, basically at my feet, there was a big back eddy. So if you look at the weeds, the river will be flowing that way, but the weeds, like the grassweed that's still green, it'll be tracked that way. So the river's pushing that way. pushing that way, and then it'll go round like that there. And it basically just goes round and round and round. That's called a back eddy. Dead, dying, weak, injured fish tend to get caught up in places like that. Speaking of dead fish, I found this in the margins. Show you a picture of it. It's a little baby tench, about 3/4 of a pound. Sad to see dead tench. I quite like tench. I'm quite a fan of tench and getting them into the river Earn. But that one was dead. Looking at it, it had some slash marks on the side of it and the flanks of it. So I'm putting that down to cormorants. I don't like cormorants. I think cormorants should be on general license and they should be culled. My view. Either way, that fish was put back into the river, and if it got ate, it got ate. If it didn't get ate, then it'll fall to the bottom and it'll rot and it'll become food for whatever. Anyway, apologies for being a short video. It was only a day session. I am out again this weekend. The temperatures for this weekend give it to be tasty cold. So it won't be an overnight session, it will be more of a day session. I don't know where I'm going yet, but I know I'm going out possibly tomorrow and Sunday, so I might get 2-day sessions, if I'm lucky. I've got my Christmas leave put in with work, and if all that, comes to spare, then I will try and get some overnight sessions done during the Christmas break. But if I can't do that, then it'll just be January. But I will be out over Christmas, so it's just a case of finding time, sorting stuff out, and getting back on the bank. I want to say thank you to my new subscribers. Welcome aboard. I hope you're enjoying what you see. If you've not yet subscribed and you've watched this far into the video, subscribe to the channel. Go on. Doesn't do you any harm. Helps me out. I'm putting links in the description below for Eddie Turner's shop where I get my wire. I've been asked for that. Eddie does oils as well. I use Eddie's oils. Cracking oils. They are among the best I've used. There's also a link there for E.T. Leadz. That's where I get my leads from in Northern Ireland. He's a guy at residence in the south, so he's a good guy. And what was the other one? I don't have another one. Besides Pete's Drop Arms, it's always there. Speaking of Pete's Drop Arms, I'm going to get a set of his new all singing, all dancing alarms. I'm waiting for those. I will do a review on those. As far as I know, we're still doing the if you tell Pete that I've sent you and quote my channel, he'll send you the stuff free from postage and costs. So it just saves you a little bit of money. You all know where I stand on his drop arms. They're awesome. They are the dog's bollocks of drop arms. Don't compromise with your bite indication, guys. That is quality. So, but I did have another guy that I was chatting to. It wasn't even fishing related. It'll come back to me. I'm as you kind of guessed, I'm kind of shite at these shoutouts. I really am crap at these shoutouts. I'll figure it out. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Until next time, cheers.